Welcome back, campers. This is Noah's Chalk Talk interview. So jumping right into it, how it's going to break down, Noah. It'll be broken into 4 quarters since we are in sports and entertainment. So jumping right into it in our preseason, we'll start off with your name, where you're from, where you work, and your official job title.
So my name's Noah Klayman. I'm from Westchester, New York. I work at Clear, which you may be familiar with from the airports. I work on the sports side of our business, on our sports partnerships across different leagues and venues across all leagues, all major leagues. And I am here back in Westchester right now with my family.
Absolutely. What is one aspect of working in sports do you appreciate the most?
I appreciate that it's a relationship-oriented business. So establishing strong relationships with people both internally at your own company as well as across different teams, leagues, organizations is super important. And then the other thing, sorry to give two, but the other thing I think is really valuable specifically about my role as well is everything we're doing in sports is super tangible, right? So at Clear, we're working on facilitating a better fan experience at different venues with different teams. So I'll have friends of mine who go to a Mets game at Citi Field, use Clear for touchless ticketing, their faces, their ticket to enter Citi Field, and they'll be texting me right after about their experience and how great it was. So kind of having those tangible results and hearing from people about their experience and knowing that we played a role in that is really awesome.
Absolutely. And transitioning to our training days, I think it's important for us to realize that most student athletes are the ones who are in the executives in the industry now. So when you were younger, what did you initially want to do career-wise growing up?
Yeah, so I think it depends how much younger. Back in elementary school, I think that in my elementary school yearbook, I think NBA player was my goal. I think I quickly learned that that was unlikely. And I always wanted to work in sports. So from a young age, I knew that I wanted to work in the sports industry. I love the power of sports to bring people together. Someone you've never even met before, you can bond immediately by talking about sports, knowing the same information about sports, and it's an immediate clicking point with different people across different backgrounds. So that's always been super interesting to me in terms of the power of sports to unify people. And then growing up, I played sports quite a bit. And then in high school, I ended up getting injured and I pivoted over to kind of how else can I stay involved in sports if it's no longer playing. So I started, coaching kids who are younger than me, reffing at games, that type of thing. And then eventually pivoted over into the business side of it, senior year of high school, and then writing about sports. And then with overtime, how can I get on the business side of sports and helping build a sports product from the ground up?
Absolutely. And this transitioning into your current role at Clear, if a student were to shout at you in your day-to-day, what would they see you doing?
Right now, they see me on a lot of Zoom calls, probably Zoom and Google Hangouts all day. But no, they'd see me talking to our existing team partners. We have at Clear over 25 sports partners now. I work day to day with 10 of them across different leagues and in different regions. So they'd see me on the phone and on calls with our existing partners, figuring out, how can we be a part of the solution to help them bring their employees back to their venues, right? First of all. And then secondly, how can we help them bring their fans back to the venue after that? So we're really focused right now during this, unprecedented period. How can we be helpful partners right now so that when this is all said and done, teams and leagues remember Clear as being, they really helped us get through that time, and they were at the forefront of adapting to that new normal.
And speaking to adapting in this new role, in this new time, what are two aspects of your job that are most satisfying?
So I think that the two aspects of my job that I think are most satisfying, one I kind of spoke to a little bit earlier, is launching new products and services, right? So touchless ticketing, the first one, we did that at Citi Field and at Bank of California Stadium with LAFC. That's completely new, right? Like I'm seeing under the hood and part of the process of building products and experiences that we're bringing to fans that have never been seen or done before. So the tangible aspect of that and the results-oriented nature of wanting to see things brought to life, I think is awesome. And then secondly, I just really appreciate that, I have a lot of ownership over the accounts that I run. So I run, 10 of our different team accounts, and I'm held responsible for them. I'm accountable to them. And it's a great opportunity because we're super results-oriented and we get to see, fans are giving us these types of rankings in their survey responses. We're getting these types of usage numbers, these types of enrollment numbers. Now, how can we get them to this level? and the ownership to make those changes and make those improvements is something that I really value.
And being that you have this responsibility, and being that you're so young, what point in your career would you say that you've had to overcome adversity, and how did you overcome that adversity? And then what is one skill that has helped you succeed in your career?
So I think in terms of the skill that's helped me succeed, I think it's how can you find the niche opportunities to help in any dynamic, right? So going back to when it may have been tough, like when I first started out a few years ago in the industry, everything's new, right? Like you feel like you might be in a position where you're not yet ready to add value. But I think the key is how can I, in every interaction, every conversation, find a way to add value to the person that I'm speaking with or working with, even if they're the one who's way more experienced and they're in a position to be more so adding value to you. So whether that's, figuring out what types of things they don't like to do, so you can then kind of take some of those things off their plate. Or if it's thinking about, maybe that person doesn't have enough time to be researching X or Y, let me become the expert in that so I can then help them out on that front and share information back to them. Or just keeping up with the industry news so you can make sure that if something comes up, you're on top of it, you know what's going on, you can provide your input. I think that's what proved most helpful for me.
Absolutely. And building off that, going into our last quarter with in the playoffs, ending off with some powerful career advice for our campers. If you could go back and tell your high school self one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself?
It's interesting because when you're in high school or college, I think you view people in the industry, whatever industry you're interested in, as kind of, knowing what they're doing, being set. But I think everyone's kind of learning as they go. And I think it's important to take comfort in knowing that people are trying out different things and experimenting. So just because you see someone in a certain position or a certain company doesn't mean that they know everything going on. So you should take that one, comfort for yourself knowing that, and two, that means there's value opportunities for you to provide back to them, because there are areas that they're not going to have time to learn about, or things that they're not going to know about yet. So I think knowing that people are learning as they go gives you an opportunity to take comfort in knowing that you can continue to help them no matter what role they're in.
Absolutely. And what is one next step that a student should take to potentially be in the role of your caliber one day?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. One is the peer-to-peer interactions. Like, I can't tell you how many times friends of mine who now work at different companies, or different leagues, NBA, et cetera, who just people that I knew in college or went to different schools and I got to know through different conferences, send opportunities my way or send information my way. So I think the peer-to-peer opportunities are important because they'll help you in the long run. So that's one. And then two, and this isn't as valuable or relevant at this exact moment in the pandemic, but one piece of advice that I got that I found very helpful when I was in your role is find ways to get involved in different things by offering to help, right? So when I was a senior in college, there was a large sports conference going on in New York City, and I emailed the organizer offering to volunteer for free at the conference, right? So then they said yes, because who's not going to want someone to volunteer for free to help them out? And now next thing you know, I'm at this conference with all these big name speakers, and I'm working at the conference, but I have free access, and the tickets would have been $2,000 a person or whatever, right? So how can you turn things on their head and say, you know what, I'm going to help them, and I'm actually going to give them value, but get value for myself by getting insider access to something, because I, didn't just look at the ticket price and say I can't do that. I said, how can I get involved in that in some way?
Absolutely. And I want to thank you for your time, Noah. This concludes our Chalk Talk interview. So campers, be on the lookout for more content coming up soon. We have a bunch more industry professionals such as Noah that are going to provide value for you guys. So stay tuned in regards to that. Peace.